All right, guys. So Christie, he went on Fox News Network to talk to Neil Cavuto after the debate. Now, in the debate, I have to be honest, I expected him to have a good performance. I thought him and Pence were going to be probably the two winners coming out of the debate in my pre-debate predictions. But it turns out, after watching the debate twice, I think he had a mid-performance, and I think Pence had a mid-performance too. Wasn't bad, but also just wasn't great. And so ultimately, as you all know, I said DeSantis and Nikki Haley won the debate, and virtually all the polls after the fact say DeSantis and Nikki Haley. Those appear to be the two that in every poll are showing, that they either won or came in second or had a bump coming out of the debate. Christie, of course, was in front of a room of people who were very hostile to him and his ideas, and all the other candidates on stage are very hostile to him simply because he's very, very critical of Trump. On actual policy, Christie is with all those Republicans and with the audience, but when it comes to all the Trump question, he's not at all. And so that means he was booed a lot, and a lot of them hated him. But he did have moments where he would say something that's uncomfortable but also true in front of that crowd. And they did kind of, okay, all right, I guess he's got a point on that one. Specifically when he was talking about Mike Pence and how he's actually a hero for doing what he did and not overturning the election, and he deserves our thanks and not just a tepid, like, okay, you did okay. So anyway, him and Vivek got into it pretty aggressively. You know, the famous you sound like ChatGPT line now. Well, they're going to dive into that in the debate, and he has some interesting thoughts here. Let's watch.
You got a lot of people booing you, and unlike Ronald Reagan, the example, he was not booed by many in his own party at the time. Did you get a sense with that exchange, Governor, that you don't have a chance at this nomination?
Not at all. And in fact, look, the Hall is a small group of people compared to our Republican Party across the country. And that's why, Neil, if you look at the newest poll that's come out of New Hampshire just 3 days ago, I'm now comfortably in second place at 14% of the vote, clear by margin of error past Vivek Ramaswamy, who's in second or third place.
That is true. To be fair, that is true. And also, to be fair, look, there were some polls that had Christie losing some ground in the debate, but there were others that had the opposite. Let's see here. Christie stayed the same in this first poll. In the second poll, Christie, 4% said he won the debate. In the third poll, Christie gained plus 13 in his favorability ratings. And this is among Republicans who watched the debate. So that's interesting. Now, my theory on that, as you guys know, is that this is the Northeastern Republicans who are way more moderate and way more likely to be anti-Trump. So, look, some polls had him doing okay in the debate. 9% in this poll said he won the debate. 9%. And then this was his worst one. It was done by a pro-DeSantis PAC. It's a public opinion strategies poll, and he went from 3% to 1% in this poll. 5
points ahead of Ron DeSantis, who's now at 9%. Now, we have a ways to go. We still have 20 points to catch up to Donald Trump. But I've only been in this race for 2.5 months. And I've gone from 0 to 14 in New Hampshire. So I'm not discouraged at all. I'm incredibly encouraged. And let's face it, who was booing me in the crowd last night? Some of the folks who were doing the loudest booing are the people who are invested in the swamp that Donald Trump helped to create for them in Washington, D.C. He said he was going to drain the swamp. And all he did was rearrange it. And rearrange it so that members of his own family could do the same things that Hunter Biden and other members of the Biden family are doing right now. Here's the promise I'll make to the American people. There'll be no members of the Christie family in government when I'm president, and there'll be no members of the Christie family who will profit from my government service. And neither Joe Biden nor Donald Trump can say that about their families.
You did get quite a bit of applause as well, and I want to be fair in that regard, Governor. But you also removed any doubt that you had serious doubts about supporting Donald Trump should he become the nominee. Is it that unequivocal, or did I conclude too much?
Oh, the question was if he's a convicted felon, would I want to support him? I don't believe it's right for a convicted felon to be the president of the United States.
Christie and Asa Hutchinson were the only two to raise their hands when asked, hey, if Trump is convicted, would you still support him? They were the only two who said, I wouldn't support him. Everybody else on stage said, I will support him. I feel like that's one of those video clips where Democrats can just take that, put it in an ad, and that's like game, set, and match with moderates and independents and even center-right people, swing voters. I mean, that is, man, I don't think they don't realize how extreme they look. They don't realize how extreme they look in that scenario. And, this is one where he's more reacting like a normie. Now, granted, the Trump supporters are going to hate it, but the Trump supporters are never going to vote for Christie anyway. The hardcore Trump base, that 25% solid, they're not going to vote for him anyway. So, look, that's one of those issues. It took courage on stage to be like, no, I'm not going to vote for him as a convicted felon. But it's funny because it takes courage in that environment, on that stage, with that crowd, with those other people around you. But in, like, normie America, if you go grab, 200 people off the street and ask, you're only going to have, 40 of them who raise their hand who say, yeah, I'll vote for the convicted felon. So he's decidedly with normie America on this one.
Presumed innocent in all 4 of these cases. And the government is going to have to come forward in any one of them and be able to prove their case to a jury of his peers beyond a reasonable doubt, as I did for 7 years as U.S. Attorney in New Jersey. And in political corruption cases like this one, I was 130-0. So I know what these cases look like. I know the burden you have to meet. And what we were asked very specifically last night by Brett Baer and Martha McCallum was if he was in fact convicted. And I don't think any Republican should want our standard bearer, let alone our President of the United States, to be a convicted felon.
You mentioned Donald Trump, Governor, and he declared Ramaswamy the debate winner for, among other reasons, calling Donald Trump the best president of the 21st century. He did not make any reference to you.
Well, I'm stunned that as I was talking about Donald Trump and all the ways that he's let down our party and our country, that he didn't mention me as a winner of the debate last night. But, if Vivek thinks that Donald Trump is the greatest president of the 21st century, what the hell is he doing running? He should drop out tomorrow.
Look, that's exactly the point I made after the debate. That's a point many other people made after the debate. It's like, okay, you're up there and you're dick riding Trump hard. And he said something like, he's the best president of the century. And yeah, so it's okay, dude, why are you running? He's still running. He's still running. And you're telling everybody, he's the guy, this guy right here. So why are you running? Well, look, we all know, we all get a sense. What he's doing is he's, hopping on the bandwagon for the scenario where if Trump goes down, hey, who's the only one left who was jacking him off the most? It's Vivek. Well, maybe we'll vote for Vivek. But look, I said it before, I'll say it again. His role, Vivek's role in that debate was, I'm Trump's beta. And if you're running as the beta, you are the beta. You're self-labeling that. So don't be surprised if homie does go to prison before, the election. You're not going to win. Even if he were to go before the primary ends, which I don't think he is. But if he were to, they're probably going to go for somebody else. Because you have to try to, don't, play the game as it's laid out in front of you. You have to try to change the game. That's what successful politicians and especially presidents do. Think about it. All the copycats, how do the copycats do? Well, let's see. Barack Obama, won in 2008. He's got a lot of copycats. Beto O'Rourke is a copycat of Barack Obama. How'd he do in the election? Cory Booker is a copycat of Obama. By the way, don't take my word for it. Go look at how they talk. Go look at their cadence. Go look at their rhythm. Go look at the things that they say. How'd he do? The most successful Obama clone was Pete Buttigieg, and how did he do? He still didn't even win, even though we perhaps overperformed where people thought he was going to be. And Vivek is just doing that on the Republican side. He's Republican Pete Buttigieg. He is trying to copy Trump in many ways and also doing a hybrid of that with almost like Obama's style of talking. Remember, he stole Obama's line about, skinny kid with a weird name. Vivek's approach is a guaranteed loser. Like I said, Carly Fiorina once won a Republican debate and she faded into irrelevancy super quick. Ben Carson once led in the polls. Herman Cain once led in the polls for 2.5 seconds. And at the time, with the hype in the moment, oh yeah, maybe this guy. And then it was of course not this guy. Of course, who are we kidding? And so here's Christie saying, just drop out, dog. Just drop out.
If Vivek thinks that Donald Trump is the greatest president of the 21st century, what the hell is he doing running? He should drop out tomorrow.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit about that, too. Another issue came out where you and Ramaswamy came to blows is on the issue of Ukraine. I want you to respond to this, Governor.
I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first, secure our own border instead of somebody else's.
I did go to Ukraine, and I went to Ukraine because I wanted to see for myself what Vladimir Putin's army was doing to the free Ukrainian people. This is the Vladimir Putin who Donald Trump called brilliant and a genius. If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
It just got me thinking, Governor, would you support Vivek Ramaswamy, given some of those views that are diametrically opposed to yours, if he were the party's nominee?
Let me just say this, Neil. I don't think there's any risk of having to make that judgment. I think what he showed last night is that this is a guy, like I said, who's a group of chat GPT phrases strung together to try to get the rise out of a crowd, but has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. This is a guy who says, let's get rid of Taiwan to the Chinese by 2028. Let's treat Israel like every other country.
On the Israel one, Vivek is definitely right. Now, by the way, he's backed off that under immense pressure from other Republicans. He's like, no, I love Israel too. I love their ethno-state. So there's no winners in any of this. But look, this is what I'm saying. In the second half of the debate, Vivek got hammered into the ground. He did great in the first half. In the second half, Mike Pence got the best of him in a foreign policy debate. Nikki Haley embarrassed him in a foreign policy debate, and he just sort of shrunk into the background. And so he came out of the gates hot, but then he got put in his place, and he took the most fire. And ultimately, I think they got a lot of body blows that landed on him. And here's Christie, who at the moment is polling lower than Vivek, and he's like, look, dog, I'm not going to have to worry about this guy getting the nomination. He ain't getting the nomination. Ooh, burn. Look, to the extent that Christie did decent in the debate, it's because he was showing strength, right? And again, many areas he got booed, but there were even some areas where the audience would largely disagree with him, where he didn't get booed. Where even they were like, okay, you got a point there. Like the Mike Pence and January 6th exchange. Like, yeah, he did the right thing. And so, I don't know, man. Again, my theory on Christie is he's going to do decently with Northeastern Republicans who are just sick of Trump. He is. And in fact, I think he might surprise people in the election by maybe coming in second place in a couple of the states or whatever. But obviously, without a massive plot twist, it's still going to be Trump and Trump by a huge margin. But look, you got to respect it at least that he's going up there and he's saying the uncomfortable truths, at least on January 6th and the rigged election nonsense and all that stuff. And I don't want anybody to get it twisted because Christie is just like all the other Republicans on all the other policies. Wants to cut Medicare, wants to cut Medicaid, wants to cut Social Security, wants to cut taxes for the rich and corporations, is way too hawkish on foreign policy. So he's terrible on policy, but I do enjoy the fact that at least on the issue of, hey, should we still have some semblance of a democracy? He's like, yeah, and all you guys are psycho, and you're following this moron, this criminal off a cliff. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.